Hello, welcome everybody. We are here today for our HR Huddle on May 24th, and I have with me today Emily Brantz, our firm administrator. Hi, Emily.
Hi, Tamara.
So glad you could join us. Jen Wilson is off facilitating and had a conflict today. So I asked Emily to come and join me today because we have been doing a lot of discussion about how do we support our support team? How do we make sure that our administrative team is feeling supported? And how do we make sure we have the right team members in place? And Emily has a few opinions about that, and she has been helping us build our processes and documentation and making sure that our admin team, who are the best, I'm a little biased, but we have the best team ever. And she's been instrumental in making sure that we have the right people in the right place and that people have the opportunity to grow and try new things. And so anyway, we thought from a HR perspective, gosh, that might be a good topic to go revisit and see what we're doing in that area and maybe be a little bit proactive in it, especially as we're coming up on these summer months here and planning through the end of the year. So that was our thought. And, maybe, Emily, where we start today is what are we doing to make sure that our administrative team is empowered? And a place to start might be, I know we've been talking about reopening or coming back to the office. I don't think it's been reopening for most firms because as essential workers, the office has been open. And I know that our admin team has been one of the groups, if you will, that have been coming in pretty regularly to the office. But as we're coming back to the office, as we're looking at blended environment, how do we make sure that, we're checking in with them too? We've been talking about, what are your needs? What do you want to do more of? What do you want to do less of? How do you feel about, working in the office? What does that look like? Some of the things that we're doing to require that we maybe be in person. And so it's probably time to check in. So Em, I know you have some thoughts about that. Do you want to add anything there that we should be looking at?
Sure. And it's kind of interesting, Tamara. I'm going to go back a little bit.
Yeah.
You said, the admins have been one of these groups that have been still coming in. Mm-hmm. They've still been going into the office, doing their social distancing, getting their work done. And maybe some of those admin team members have been hybrid as well. But I think it's a good time as we're talking about returning to the in-office paradigm that we're asking what kind of processes or procedures have the admin team come up with since everybody has left the office and has gone into this hybrid or remote environment. What have they discovered that they could maybe do remotely?
Right.
And so often we hear that the admin team is being left out. And I'm sensitive to that, and our team knows that. I'm very sensitive to that. I immediately am like, wait a second, it's that, what about me? What about the admin team? And it always brings up that question is, are we not as important? Why can't we take these processes and reinvent like the audit team is doing or the tax team is doing? Why can't we try these new processes and procedures and open it up and see what's out there for us to streamline our efficiency as an admin team and go remote? So I think that's a kind of a big question to be asking, Tamara. And I'm sorry, I cut you off. Do you want to jump in and add to that?
I was going to tattle on somebody. So I was going to give an example to what you're talking about. You just made me think of an example that sometimes we have to bend in certain directions, or we don't have consistency because we have one partner or one group, to your point, that it's like, that's not how we're doing it. Or we're in the office with you, so we want it to still be paper, or my clients are still paper. And so I need somebody to be able to receive that. Instead of saying, how do we help make sure we're all digitized? Mm-hmm. How do we help our clients digitize? By the way, I, as the admin team, could maybe help the clients do that. But we see these one-offs, and sometimes it's, they're kind of doing it sneakily, maybe. And that's why I said I was tattling on them. Maybe there's like this, group or this individual or two that might be the culprits. And so how do we make sure that that's not happening? Because I think that would support our admin team as well. So I think that's important.
Yeah. And asking those questions though, Tamara. So two things I'm going to unpack here. So we have to ask those questions, just like you'd ask, is there another way to do that? You ask that to other teams. So maybe that's a question that someone on your admin team is asking. I think there might be a better way to do that. So there's one. And then another thing I wanted to unpack is that mindset shift. And so you were mentioning, sometimes there's that one partner or a few partners that say, we want to come back into the office, or we want you to come in and stay here, work here, don't work remote kind of thing. And what I want people to ask, it's not just a mindset shift at the leadership level though too, of having that, I can work remote. It's also at that admin level of saying, hey, I can work remote. I'm going to say to the partner that maybe is a little weary about, the admin team going remote or hybrid, and say, I have an idea. That admin is just as much of a leader as anyone else on the team. And they can bring those ideas as well. And they might have their fingers in a lot of different sections and see all these different processes that they can bring in and loop together from the audit department, from the tax department, or from the leadership team, all these different processes that they could bring in, incorporate together. And I think it's that mindset shift on leadership, on admin, on the whole team of saying, we're not just an admin team.
Right. And we like to say operations support or professional support or, whatever term, because admin does sound maybe less than, and it's not. It's like the foundation that's holding up our business. And I love how you said that. First of all, our philosophy is everyone is a leader, and regardless of your role, regardless of your title. And so coming and saying, hey, I have an idea. What do you think about trying this? And we also often hear that sometimes we'll do process improvement committees or technology committees, and we don't include an administrative or operations person. And so I think that's important. And sometimes those committees live underneath HR. So if that's your role or you can influence it, looking at what the team looks like, to make sure we have that right representation. Because there are ideas, there's impacts for sure. It does, like you said, it's like it does. What about me, us over here? There is an impact. Let's talk about what that is, and not hear it from, I don't want to change. Because sometimes I think we might hear it from that perspective instead of, hey, there is a real impact. I have some history. I want to make sure that we're considering these things. And it does help bring people along if there is some resistance. We're not all like change agents, like jumping off the cliff. Some of us do need to be brought along. That's okay. But I think that information and education is important for us to consider.
It gives a good opportunity for them to learn as well.
Yes.
And so your admin team isn't standing in one spot either, just like the rest of your team. I'm always like, just like the rest of the team, they're not standing in one spot. They're learning and growing as well. And some might have some interests that you don't even know about. They might be interested in marketing, or maybe they were young, fresh out of college, and they maybe took a few accounting classes and then decided it wasn't for them, and then saw in your firm that they wanted to do it. They could be studying for an exam that you don't know about. Right. And if you're not giving them that opportunity to grow in your firm, they could grow somewhere else. And it's a capacity thing that we are all facing, I think, as well.
I think that's good points. I think that's something else we often hear is, in HR, we're focused on career paths and goals. And sometimes the admin is like, that doesn't apply to me. And there really isn't a career path for me here. Why do we have to set goals? I'm not, trying to climb to necessarily be partner. Now, sometimes it's like, we're embracing more operations partners, more kinds of partners. So I think that's starting to go away, first of all. But also to what you just pointed to that point is, I think there are other paths. We've talked about ladders and lattices on previous HR huddles. I think this is a great place to look at it and find out, what would you like to learn more of? What would you like to try? What would you like to do less of? As we look at adding capacity to our admin team, if we were to reconstruct, our positions, what might that look like? How would you define it? How would you define that role for you? How would you define what we need? Because they can be instrumental in building that. We might not be able to accommodate it 100%, but gosh, they probably have a lot of really great thoughts about how we do that.
And to add that to that, Tamara, it's not all on the leadership team either. That admin team can also say, I have an idea, or I was thinking about learning about this. Can I come along? This is a time as an admin person when people are working remote. If you have an interest in something or a hybrid that's going on in the firm, now is the time for you to say, hold up, time out. I'm actually available during that time too. Can I get the dial in and join and learn for my own, for my own learning?
Yep.
And it could open the door for that person. So that that admin person also has to take that step forward and say, I'd like to learn about this. It's not just on leadership. It's not just on admin. It's a combination, and having that shift that you want to grow at the firm. You want to do that, not staying silent, which I feel like I hear so often from other admins. Oh, I'm just not, I can't say that, or I can't do that. It's like, why not?
Yep.
What's it going to hurt?
Well, and it'll elevate you and it'll elevate the firm when we do that. And I'll just give the example, you were interested in social media. So you raised your hand and said, hey, I have a passion and interest in this. I would like to lead this, for the firm. Diversity, equity, inclusion. Emily owns that for our business too. She's like, we need a leader. I'm willing to go, learn about it so we can do our own internal education and then figure out what we should be advising clients. And that's kind of a proactive idea. So it's like, how do we get scheduled to be able to do that? So I think those are some examples. You just never know where somebody might raise their hand, and giving permission and asking to get the conversation going if we're quiet, I think is important, to make sure that we're generating that. Giving the space, I think, to be able to do that.
And the support.
Yes. So say more about that support. What does that look like?
Some of the support that I think of is, inviting them along to learn.
Yep.
Giving them, tagging along, shadowing with others, sending some articles. Hey, you asked a question about that, here's why. Or if it triggers something else in your mind, Tamara thought about this or asked some more questions, and now it's coming up on another client. I wonder if she'd be interested in following along with that. And then also with that support, maybe they want to try it and maybe they dislike it. It is okay not to like it, but giving that support to say, hey, you tried it. And let's talk about what you didn't like or what you did like about it. And maybe there's something else that, you will like that has those, check marks. So I think supporting them in whatever growth it is, or if they're saying hands off, okay, well, I changed my mind, supporting them.
Yes, and then it's okay. Yes. So you made me think of another one. So in our transformational leadership program and in our leadership programs, we have people from different operations areas of firms participate. So we have HR people participate. We have marketing people participate. We've had firm administrators participate. And so it's huge, first of all, because we often don't invest in those leadership skills and development and programs for our admin people. So that speaks volume to the importance and a way to support them, to your point. But also, it is immensely educational for the client-facing staff to hear the perspectives of the operations and vice versa. The learning that goes on in the discussions and in the dialogues, and the empathy that is gained, in addition to the skills that they're developing, and they're getting the same learning that maybe peers on the client facing side are getting, is huge. So think about that in your internal programs. They probably don't want to go to the tax or the audit or business valuation, CPE. Although to Emily's point, somebody might go, I'm really interested in that. I want to give them permission to do that. Exactly. but you're doing other programs or other courses, maybe we're doing unconscious bias. You could say that for everybody. That's an easy one, Tamara. But what else are we overlooking that might not be included from those leadership or soft skills, perspective, and just give an opportunity. And again, that integration is worth it right there, let alone the skills that they're going to develop. So I think that's really important.
Definitely. Just think about delegating, an admin delegates out. So they need that vital skill in knowing how to delegate and do it so it happens well.
Yes.
Without any balls being dropped, and that happens. So that's a good point.
Well, and that's, so we do our foundational leadership course, if you will. We talk about, who you're being as a leader, what are the leadership attributes that applies to everybody. We talk about how do we convey ownership and accountability. That conveys to everybody. How do we, communicate to each other? Delegation, because we're delegating across lines, across teams to our clients. So, we'll get asked, okay, you're going to do a day or a day and a half, leadership workshop for us. Who should be included? We're like, everybody. Can we turn the phones off or get a temp in to come in so that the receptionist can come and answer calls so we can have everybody in that as an example. And I just don't think we often think that way. So I think that's important to look at.
Yeah. Something else I thought about, Tamara, and we've talked about this before a little bit, but sometimes there are admin too that don't fit.
Yes.
And aren't coming along, or they don't want to grow, or they don't want any of that. And there are people like that. Sometimes they're in any field or industry or job or organization. There's always, some people that want to do that. So we have to, I think, ask some of those questions as well. They're difficult and they're hard, and you have to get that awkward, straight feedback that we talk about all the time. But you have to know that as well, that if they maybe don't want more, or maybe they're getting close to retirement and they're just like, I'm cool, and that's fine. But we have to ask those questions, and we have to know, are they willing to grow? Are they looking to elevate? Are they looking, what are they looking for? Just scheduling or what, we have to ask those questions.
Well, like we're not doing, copies and scanning and some of this stuff, right? That maybe we used to do, or we have, our green folders that we would pass around. We're not doing green folders anymore. It's in XM or whatever our scheduling system is. So how do we best facilitate that? And, if we've outgrown them, then we can say, how do we make a transition plan? Because we probably do have some processes and some clients that we need to move along. But in the conversation, when we ask, we do have to be straight about, this is where we're headed. And this is our timeline to get there. And if that's something that's not, that you're not looking to do, let's talk about what that transition might look like. I think that is important to be honest about it and discuss it up front. Because I think some HR professionals and some partners, like that's their feeling and they don't know how to go about it. I think another way to address it is to, we're big on the roles grids, and our responsibilities, for each of the functions, and look at it clean sheet. Here are the different functions that we have, and we do them by skills block or by category, because then I can move things around. And I can say, maybe we need to move this into a new position. We feel like we need capacity, but maybe if we move things around, I don't really need more people. I need to say, what should we stop doing? Because there's some things we should stop doing that would free up time. But also, if I moved it around and we had less touches, and I was, inspiring people to take on maybe new things and supporting them to take on new things, then I might be able to just kind of, redesign how we're getting the work done and how it's flowing and what does that look like. And then I might go, we do need capacity, and here's the kind of role, and here's the skill blocks that I would put in there and the responsibilities under there. And guess who I would start to have do that redesign? I would have the administrative team put in input in. I interview people, and we can move things around. And then I can also ask, what are you interested in? What do you want to learn more of? Is there anything that we should add or take away, while we're evaluating this and looking at this? That is so re-energizing for people, just to even be engaged in that conversation, and then, feel like they have some control and say in it as well. So I think
Yeah.
that's huge.
And to add to that, I know we're getting at the top of our time here, but to add, it also shows so much from the leadership without saying a thing. It says so much to the admin team. It says, hey, first of all, you belong here. Hey, we care about you. Hey, we care about your future. We care about our firm's future. We want to bring you along. We don't want you to go anywhere. It says so much without saying those words. It says it, even though you don't think it. And that admin team, in the education world, they say the people who you are always nice to, admins and janitors, always, always.
Yep.
And so I just really always encourage everybody, be that, be extra nice to those admin teams. Show them that you care. Do that extra. Ask those questions, just like you're asking your other team members to demonstrate that you care about them, the future, their future, and their happiness at work, where they're spending so much time with you and your team. They probably love you guys just as much as you love them. So asking those questions and supporting them is so beneficial to making sure they know that.
I love that. The only thing I would add is also just pay attention to where they are with change. Because sometimes, some of them are like, yesterday we should have this handled. And some are like, not so much. And that's part of the support. And the, how do we value people is to know where they are on the change adoption curve, but also paint the picture. Here's where we're headed. And we need to have people headed there. So I can do it in a compassionate way. And then I can also take those that are changed, like we should have done this yesterday. Thank you. I'm so glad I get to, bite my teeth into this, sink my teeth into this. But not everybody's like that. And so I think we can do it with some compassion, but we don't let up on this is where we're headed. This is where we need to be, and really painting that picture. So I think that's important. Well, we could go on for a while longer, as you can tell. Emily, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Great dialogue. If you guys have thoughts or questions about this topic, or any other topics you'd like us to discuss on the HR Huddle, let us know. Next week is Memorial Day, so we will not be here next Monday. We are going to take a day off. We hope you are as well. So we will see you 2 weeks from now in June. I cannot believe it. Have a great couple of weeks, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much.